Perhaps. Let's see, close, go live. Looks like it's going. Looks like we're streaming. I think we're up. Yeah, we're live. Live on YouTube. Let's go. Hey, what's up, Jesse? Okay. Nice. Got a couple people here. Nice to see everyone. I have made my comments really big because it's hard for me to see the comments, so I can't see the live picture if I have the comments big. Anyway, whatever. That's behind the scenes. That's inside baseball stuff. I'm glad everyone's here. Let's flame on. Get this show going. Yeah. All right. Hey, what's up, Legalese? Got a couple people here, a couple people in the chat. Good to see everyone. And it looks like we're live everywhere. Awesome. Well, let's get going, shall we? I do have some updates at the end. I'm going to tell you what you didn't hear yesterday because I had music echoing over everything. That's right. Flame on. Flame on, Jesse. I like Flame on. I don't think I've ever explained it. Uh-oh. Use keyframe frequency of 4 seconds or less. So, still got to figure out the keyframe frequency. I have no idea what that is. But, yeah, we'll keep working on it. Let's see if I'm still alive. Yeah, seem to be. Okay, cool. Cool. Hey, what's up, Bastille? All right. But I did figure out the issue that I had where I had music playing over an announcement that I was saying. So I'll get to that at the end. That'll be an update. But today, welcome, everyone. Today is Thursday, January 12th. Wow, already 12 years into the new year? Still haven't done much other than this channel. Today I'm going to talk about the Greater Idaho Project. You may or may not have heard about it, but there's been some recent news in it here in Oregon. I'm going to talk about 40 million Mexicans living in the United States. And this was from the president of Mexico himself. They had a little summit down there in Mexico this week. Talk about Parler laying off their staff and how that's not really a good sign for any social media company. I want to touch on Yellowstone. That's the TV show, not the park. Yellowstone Fashion. And I'll just give you a couple updates on what I was trying to tell you about yesterday. So, yeah, let's get into it. Oh, I will tell you what the Flame On was from. I think I started that. Long time ago, in the early days of the internet. Before there were graphics, right? I studied computer science back in the 80s. And, it was dial-up and it was just text-based internet. But if you were going to make fun of someone or insult someone or whatever, before you would do it, you might do like a /flame on. And then at the end, a /flame off. But flaming someone was insulting or making fun of someone online. At least that was the terminology, back when I was an undergrad. And I always just thought it was a funny saying. It really hasn't carried over now. But you could, like right before you go off on someone, you just say flame on. And at the end, you say flame off. So anyway, that's the origin of that, and that just was funny in my head, and I just kind of adapted it to this, although it just for fun. So that's the origin story of Flame On. But let us get to the stories of today, which is Greater Idaho. Okay. And just so you know, I will have a link to all the stories that I talk about today, a link to the archived story where I took the information from. I'm not reading word for word the article, it's a summary. But an Oregon State Senator, Dennis Lincicome, has introduced a bill that supports the idea of the Greater Idaho Movement, which is to move several conservative-leaning eastern counties out of Oregon and into Idaho, arguing they'd be a better political fit there. The bill was written as a memorandum that invites Idaho political leaders to discuss the idea. However, the bill has little chance of passing in Oregon's Democrat-controlled state legislature. The bill states that the voting patterns of 15 eastern Oregon counties, which are not named in the bill but are listed on the Greater Idaho Movement's website, resemble those of Idaho, and that 11 of those counties have already approved symbolic ballot measures supporting the movement. So you can check this out for yourself. This is on greateridaho.org. But what the idea, see, we have Idaho here, and we have Oregon, which is where I live, to the west of that. But Greater Idaho is going to incorporate Eastern Oregon into Idaho. So that's the idea. On the Greater Idaho website, they say state lines have been relocated many times in American history because it just takes an interstate compact between two state legislatures and approval of Congress. So this doesn't have to be a big deal. You know, making a new state, that's really hard. But moving some borders shouldn't be that big a deal. If the U.S. were governed as a single state, you wouldn't have the opportunity to have different states and different laws in different areas. The idea of our country was that we would have different states, and different states would decide what would be right for the people of those states. Well, in this Greater Idaho movement, what they're saying is Eastern Oregon doesn't really fit with Oregon. And I can understand why. You know, living here in Portland, it's pretty much the most liberal city in the U.S. You might say San Francisco, perhaps. But Oregon always tries to outdo San Francisco as far as far-left stuff. If they were going to try a far-left idea, they'll try it in San Francisco. They may try it in Portland. But this is kind of the center of that ideology in the U.S. And a lot of people in Oregon don't care for it. In fact, a lot of people in Portland don't care for it either. I'm going to relate this Greater Idaho story to Portland, just to make it a little, just as an example. Half the city of Portland lives east of 82nd Avenue, okay? And they are probably not what you think of when you think of Portlanders. If probably a little bit more conservative, but that's not hard to do in Portland. In Portland, if you are not an avowed communist, right, you're probably considered a little bit conservative. And so even though half the city of Portland is east of 82nd, there's no representation on the city council or anywhere in the city. There's not a single politician from this side of 82nd. And so the services seem to favor the richer areas, or the downtown and those areas seem to get all the services first. Just as an example, We transitioned all of the lights here in Portland from the old lights to the new LED street lights. And it was like a 2-year project to go through and replace them all. They started exactly where you would think they would start, where the politicians live, and then they just kept moving out. If I'm out on the east side, I'm east of 82nd, and it's street lights. Who cares when they replace the lights? But they replaced East Portland's lights last. They took care of the entire western side of the city first. And this was for something that didn't even matter. This is LED street lights, right? Who cares? But you can see the problem is when you have representation that only represents one particular viewpoint, they take care of themselves first and they don't take care of the rest. So in this greater Idaho movement, what Eastern Oregon is saying is, hey, we're not down with all this Oregon nonsense. We don't have the same social views, the same political views. We would much rather associate with Idaho. And so they're asking for the border to be moved. Now, why I don't think that this will ever happen, I mean, there's a chance, but why I don't think that this will happen is the same reason that Eastern Portland could not be a different city. It would probably be better for us if we could be our own city, because I think more resources, the taxes here are higher than they are in some parts of town, that the property values may even be higher, but their taxes are less because of some convoluted calculation that they came up with. But I think the tax money out here should be spent out here, but that's probably why this will always stay one city and not break up, because why would downtown Portland want to get rid of all the taxpayers? They're getting all the taxes from out here, but they don't have to do anything. It's free money for them. So in the same way, why would Oregon want to get rid of, they're getting lots of taxes from Eastern Oregon, and they don't have to serve them at all, pretty much. So that's probably why it wouldn't ever happen. But you can see here on the little thing here, in red, in Oregon here, these are all the counties that have already voted to join Idaho. So lots of counties have voted to join Idaho that are in Eastern Oregon, but it would require the approval of, the Oregon government, and right now it is Democrat controlled, so that's probably not going to happen. But that's what's going on with Greater Oregon. I really like Idaho. If it weren't so cold in the winter, I had a great time. I visited Boise. It was a lovely city. It was great. I would consider moving there, but it is really cold in the winters. And the summers here are beautiful, and the summers there are beautiful as well. But Idaho is a lovely place. I would actually be encouraged for some kind of change to the states, but like I say, that's probably not going to happen. Let me know what you think about that if you've been to Idaho in the comments. That'd be cool. All right. So that is that. Let's see. We'll go right here. And now we will talk about AMLO, Mexico. This is a president of Mexico. He celebrates 40 million Mexicans living in the U.S. AMLO is, of course, Mexico's president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador. And he said in a press conference with Joe Biden and Justin Trudeau that there are 40 million Mexicans living in the United States. They had a little conference this week. Obrador's advocacy for ethnic Mexicans in the United States is different from the pro-migration policies supported by Biden and Trudeau, or the globalists, if you will. Biden has described Americans as immigrants, as a country of immigrants, and has called for use of global labor to fill jobs in the U.S. economy, regardless of the economic impact of American wages and rent. Obrador, on the other hand, has emphasized his government's efforts to improve life for Mexicans and reduce incentives for migration to the United States. He's also asked President Biden to insist on amnesty for millions of Mexicans living in the United States. And this was a pretty funny conference that they had down there this week. They spoke. It was really interesting at the end. Obrador was just opining and just going off for like a half hour, and to look at Biden and Trudeau just kind of stand there looking around, looking at their feet was rather amusing, although not, it's a big who cares. But it is interesting that he actually stated the numbers. 40 million Mexicans living in the United States. And that's something that we don't talk about. We don't talk about how many people are here, legally or illegally. It's like you're not allowed to even say the numbers or question the numbers. There are different organizations, think tanks, nonprofits that have their own projections on how many people are living here, illegally or illegally. But one of them is this think tank that is often quoted. It's like no matter how many people cross the border, they always say, we're at about 11 million here illegally. 11 million, that's it. For the last 20 years, it's about 11 million. Oh, no, they went home. And it's rather odd. It's rather odd. And if there are other studies that say there's triple that, or 30 million, 50 million, something like that, well, then immediately you are a racist, right? You're a racist, or you're far right wing, reactionary. But it is a way that the media dismisses any talk about the numbers. Now, I'm not even saying the numbers are good or bad, putting no judgment on that at all. But if we're to understand what's going on in our country, we probably need to know how many people are here. With the last census, they did away with even asking people if they were a U.S. citizen or not, right? Because they thought that would affect some of the voting districts. Interesting ideas for that. But that is something to consider. How many people do you think are living here in the U.S.? Because I know how many people the census says, right? 1/3 of a billion. How many of those people are legal Americans? How many people have overstayed their visa? How many people are here with green cards? This information is hard to find. It's really odd. I was down in Mexico City this fall, and there was a big hullabaloo of all these Americans that were moving down to Mexico and gentrifying parts of Mexico City. And I would say, walking around there, I didn't see many at all. I really stuck out. And it's my impression, there are more Mexicans living in Portland than there are Americans living in Mexico City. And Mexico City is, 20 million people or whatever. That would be my guess, but I don't know. And if you're not allowed to actually research these things, and if these numbers aren't public, I guess we'll never know, right? So that's that. Next story is we're going to talk about Parler. Parler has laid off the majority of its staff. Parliament Technologies, the parent company of Parler, a censorship-free social media platform, has laid off a majority of its staff and most of its chief executives over the past few weeks, leaving the future of the platform in question. Parliament Technologies began laying off workers in late November, with around 75% of its staff let go by the end of December. Parler, which was founded in 2018 as a free speech alternative to mainstream platforms like Facebook and Twitter, saw a surge in popularity during the 2020 presidential election, but was banned from app stores following Jan 6. Despite returning to Apple's store, the platform struggled to regain its user base and competitors emerged. Now, I am always leery about every social media platform. You know, we have been learning through the Twitter files that State Department essentially has employees, and they're working with every social media company that we know, Google, YouTube, Twitter, all of them. And when new alternatives pop up, you'll notice what happens. They are immediately cast out as being far-right extremist and all kinds of bad things, as to keep anyone from moving to the new platform. And perhaps the reason that these State Department-controlled social media sites do not want competition is they don't have employees there yet. They don't have influence on these alternative platforms, and so they need to make sure that they do not succeed, right? Why would you want to have an alternative to YouTube if you can control YouTube, right? If you can shadow ban people, if you can hide people, like with Google, why would you have an alternative to Google when you can just censor Google? If you can censor Google, you don't want an alternative if you're, this authoritarian State Department, deep state stuff. You wouldn't want any competition because the competition, you might not control them yet. And I don't know who was in Parler, but definitely our government did not want people on Parler. That makes me want to be a part of it even more. But it doesn't look good for that company. Didn't really seem to take off. It was doing well, and then, you take something out of the App Store and, it'll fail. So that is a proven way to quash any competition. Apple and Google, because they control what we can put on our phones, they really have so much power. They really have so much power, and they showed how much power they had by taking Parler off their app stores. So, who knows? Will Parler stick around? Probably not. Probably not. But there will be new platforms, and I'm always encouraged with new platforms because there's a chance it won't be controlled by our government. And let's see. Lastly, let's talk about Yellowstone fashion. Now, I'm talking about the TV show. Yellowstone show has suburbanites dressing like cattle ranchers, and for the thumbnail, I had my Stetson that I pulled out for that. TV show Yellowstone has sparked a Western fashion trend among its fans, with many people wanting to dress like the show's characters. I haven't seen the show yet, but I hear good things about it. The show, which centers on a family of ranchers, features a lot of Western fashion, including cowboy hats, boots, denim clothing. Fans of the show have been buying authentic items worn on the show, with some even buying cowboy boots, even though they don't ride horses. You don't need cowboy boots you don't need to ride horses to wear cowboy boots. The show is also led to an increase in demand for Western-style clothing and accessories from retailers as people want to emulate the show's characters. And I think that's cool. I like the idea of just taking stuff you like and copying it or paying homage to it. I think it's cool. I think this whole appropriation idea is silly. Now, if you are taking something and making fun of it, okay, don't be a jerk, right? Be nice. But if, let's say, in the 90s, rappers want to start wearing Tommy Hilfiger and wearing polo shirts and dressing like they're in the Hamptons, knock yourself out, right? Anyone can buy any clothing that they want. If they want to dress like rich white guys in New England, that's cool. Who has a problem with that? I don't have a problem with that at all. I mean, how many people are wearing Jordans that don't play basketball? Right? You don't have to play basketball to wear basketball shoes. Is that appropriation? Is that? No, I don't think so. In fact, I think the world would be better if we could just take things we like. Doesn't matter. As long as you're not being a jerk about it. That's how I feel. I'd love to know how you think about this. I know here in Portland, there's a lot of things that you're not supposed to wear because it's not authentic for you. Of course, here you wear, Columbia puffer jacket and flannel and look dour. I guess that's the Portland look. But, if those people wanted to do that, if people wanted to copy that look all across the country, knock yourself out. When grunge was a thing, the whole country was wearing flannel and tying flannel around their waist and dressing like the Pacific Northwest. Well, the reason people wear flannel here is because it's cold and rainy. If you're doing that in Florida, it's a little silly, but you should be able to wear a flannel shirt if you want. And I think this is kind of cool. I would love to see some more Western fashion in the mainstream. This weekend I went to a bull riding competition, right? PBR bull riding championships. I went to over the weekend, and there were a lot of people wearing some Western gear. Now, I thought it was a little odd to wear a cowboy hat inside, in a big arena, but whatever, you do you. But I liked the fashion. Most of the people look pretty good. So I think this is a fun thing, and I look forward to maybe checking out Yellowstone. I haven't seen it yet. Have you seen it? Is it worth my time? Let me know. And lastly, I want to give an update on what I was talking about yesterday. Couple of things. First off, I never said it. WWE is World Wrestling Entertainment. That's a big pro wrestling show, professional wrestling, and it's the biggest one in the world. I need to keep in mind when I'm talking about a story that maybe not everyone is familiar with everything. That's hard to do sometimes. And I was called out. What is WWE? I was like, well, that's what it is. I need to do a better job, and I will. And the other thing is I was talking about dance fitness and how it's so good for your mental health. Just moving around and dancing. This is the video I played yesterday that drowned out the sound, and you couldn't hear what I was talking about. This was a video that I filmed up in Vancouver, BC. Little dance choreography video. This is something that I do, right, professionally. I teach classes on this, and I know that every time I have gone to a class, whether I teach it or I go to someone else's class, I leave and I feel better, and I'm glad that I did it. And I just wanted to share that with you, that if you've never tried it, I would encourage you to give it a try. And I was thinking that might be something that I might do, not on this channel, but perhaps once a week I will film a class. and invite you to dance along. Let me know if you think that's a good idea, if that's worth my time. But I really believe in it. And if you haven't tried it before, I think you should try it. So, lastly, with the show, I've been working on these live streams. I'm trying to figure out what is the best, most appropriate way to do it, to film the live stream and just put that out as it is, to do the show and then maybe cut up a segment and then post a segment and not the whole thing. I'm just trying to figure out what the best practice is going forward and what I should be doing. And I always appreciate everyone's thoughtful advice on these things, because that's why I'm doing this, is what I get back from you all. I really appreciate it. As a reminder, please hit the like button if you haven't done that already. I will be streaming live Monday to Friday, noon on the West Coast, because it works for me. That's a good time. And I am on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, and Twitch. And, you know, you might check out one of the other platforms just to see what it's like, and maybe you connect with it. Thanks for hitting that like button. Let's say the goal today, I'd love to see 25 likes by the end of today. That would be awesome. And I think we can do it. Anyway, have an awesome day. I look forward to reading your comments. Y'all have a beautiful day. Cheers.